But it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker this afternoon, Candy Silver. I've had the privilege of working with Candy when I was on the Community Foundation Board for 6 years. Candy earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Child Development and Family Studies from Purdue, right here. She went on to earn a master's degree in Philanthropy and Development from St. Mary's of Minnesota in Winona, Minnesota. And she also has earned a fundraising school certificate from IU's Center of Philanthropy in Indianapolis. She's held advancement positions for a variety of organizations, all sorts of organizations. I won't go into that. And I am pleased that she's here with us today as the Director of Development for the Community Foundation to talk a little bit about the foundation and give you an overview. So please join me in welcoming Candy Silver.
Thank you, Jeff.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't work? Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me today. As Jeff said, I am Candy Silver from the Community Foundation of Greater Lafayette, and I'm the Director of Philanthropy. How many of you are familiar with the Community Foundation? Just raise your hand. Good. That's great. So for those of you who aren't familiar, you've probably heard of Ford, Rockefeller, Lilly Endowment. Well, those are private foundations. We're a public foundation for the entire community. We establish endowments, and with the annual distribution, we provide grants to the local nonprofits. Have to work two-handed here. We are a 501c3 organization, but we're not funded by the government. And we're governed by a board of private citizens on a rotating basis who are representative of the public interest. And as Jeff shared, he is one of our past board members, and I'm fortunate to still work with him on our development committee. We appreciate all of his hard work and leadership. So today I'd like to share a little information with you about community foundations, our community foundation, what we offer, and share some stories of some passionate people who have decided to partner with us. So the first community foundation was established in 1914 by Frederick Harris Goff. He was an attorney and a lawyer, an attorney and a banker. And he had two main drivers. He wanted to establish a system whereby people of modest means could pool their funds together to practice philanthropy. And he also wanted to create a vehicle where the donors' charitable interests were honored forever. In 1970, our community foundation was established, and we were actually born out of the United Way. We were established to serve the capital needs of the United Way agencies. In 1987, we changed our name to Greater Lafayette Community Foundation, and at that time we expanded our services so that we would serve the capital needs of all the local nonprofits. And then in 2006, through a branding exercise, we changed our name to Community Foundation of Greater Lafayette. But what you might find interesting to know is that in the 1990s, we were really only one of a handful of community foundations in the state of Indiana. And today, there is a community foundation in every county, with the exception of two. And in those counties, they have two. And the reason is because of Lilly Endowment's aggressive grant making to community foundations. Lilly sees community foundations as a way to know the local communities. And there are approximately 800 community foundations across the U.S. Lost my clicker. So today, we have been in existence for 47 years. We have 215 endowments and trusts. We're managing $46 million in assets. And in 2016, we distributed $1.3 million in grants. So cumulatively, that's $18 million over the last 20 years. And our real rate of return over that period is 7.2%. And some of you may know this, but White County is an affiliate. So there are 3 features of a community foundation. We strive to be the center of philanthropy for the community. So that's in relationships and fund building. And then, of course, the second leg is convening and community leadership and grant making. So the first leg of the stool, let's talk about relationship and fund development. Behind those formal words, really those are just people in our community who are building legacies by making gifts to serve the needs of the community. So how do we define success? It's by listening and understanding in family stories, their charitable passions, and understanding their philanthropic interests. So we have 4 types of endowments. Unrestricted, which is discretionary, field of interest, designated, and donor advised. Discretionary meets the ever-changing needs of the community, and that funds our tier 1, 2, and 3, our grant-making cycles. And so that's for capital needs of the local nonprofits. An example of a discretionary endowment is the Bob and Marilyn Witzel Endowment. This was funded by Bob's retirement account. Some of you may remember Bob. He was the CEO of Lafayette Life. He was a community volunteer and a philanthropist. NICS is a field of interest endowment, and those are established to address an area of community life, such as arts, aging, at-risk, literacy, and also community beautification. An example of a field of interest is the Betty M. Nelson Endowment for Literacy. Betty was inspired by her elementary schoolmates because she saw that they really struggled to, the ones that really struggled to learn, that sort of had a negative impact on them throughout their life. She noticed that there were some families that the children had to share one pair of shoes, and on the day that that child got to wear the shoes, that was the day they got to school. So today, with Betty's endowment, it will help children learn to read. A designated endowment is for a specific 501c3 organization. A designated funds provide ongoing support, and they can be used for operations unless otherwise specified. An example of a designated endowment is the Shirley B. Curtis Endowment. Shirley was a nurse, and she was a volunteer at the women's shelter. She noticed that children in the shelter were often sick, and their moms didn't have the funds to buy over-the-counter meds. So with her endowment, now those funds are provided. A donor-advised endowment is most like your own private foundation. Donors each year make the recommendation on who to allocate the distribution to. Has to be a 501c3. An example of a donor-advised endowment is the Roger and Kathy Bauer endowment, family endowment. Roger, Kathy, you may know them. They own many of the local subways. They had a passion for helping kids. Over 25 years ago, they started a Christmas party for underprivileged kids. And today, that Christmas party serves almost 150 children. Through their donor advised fund, they can be assured that that Christmas party will go on forever. Clicker. Before I mentioned designated endowments, we have 45 designated endowments at the Community Foundation. And what's interesting about these organizations who have established designated endowments is these organizations have to work very hard every year to raise the funds to fund their operations, but they're also committed to raising funds for the future through an endowment. And with these endowments, sometimes they range between, the ones that we have range between $10,000 and $2 million. So it is very simple to establish an endowment. Maybe. It's $10,000 for a discretionary and designated, and $25,000 for field of interest, donor advised, and scholarships. Our investment and spending policy is 4.75 of the 3-year trailing average, and our administration fee is 1.5%. Uh-oh. There we go. So, ways to give. You can make an outright gift, which is through cash or stock. You can also leave a bequest or life insurance. We also offer charitable gift annuities and charitable remainder trusts. Another leg of that stool is convening and community leadership. And some various ways that we do that is through the Doug Eberly series. That's 9 workshops a year, which helps to teach boards good governance. We also provide 3 donor advisory councils a year, and that's a behind-the-scenes sneak peek at a different nonprofit. And through that, donors, it helps them in deciding where to allocate their distribution. We also offer fundraising coaching, and we have a Gold Key Society for financial advisors and attorneys. We also have 2 giving circles. And this is very exciting because with our 2 giving circles, they're called Men Who Give and Women Who Care. And our Jeff Love is one of the members of Men Who Give. And we have some cards in the back regarding that program. The exciting thing about this is there's over 200 individuals in our community who are participating in this. And the way it works is if you start at the beginning of the year, it's a commitment of $500. The first $100 goes to the endowment, and then after that, there's quarterly meetings. At each quarterly meeting, you contribute $100. Members have the opportunity to put names in a basket with the organization they would like to support. We draw 3 names. After the 3rd presentation, there's a democratic vote. We count the votes, and whoever has the most votes wins the funds that night. So we have 135 women, so that results in a $13,500 grant that night to the winning agency. So that's pretty exciting because your $100 quickly turns into over $13,000. So if anyone's interested in more information on that, you can talk to me or Jeff about the Men Who Give. And the last piece that I'd like to share with you is the Community Foundation always strives to monitor what's going on in the community and what the needs are. Our 3rd feature is grant making. This slide shows the role of the Community Foundation plays in grant making. And our board decides the priority areas, and this shows you how it's broken out. And then, of course, diversity is an overarching goal. Here's a few photos of some of the grants that we've provided. Of course, it's all about impact. I think we're missing a slide, but that's okay. Over 90% of what we do is in endowments. So that's our main area. So to sum it up, the Community Foundation can be your plan giving office and provide counsel to help you meet your philanthropic interests. We also can be a neutral party that can help with any stakeholders. And also, we can be grant making. Grant making is very exciting because all the grant making just helps the community in general. So thank you very much, and I would be open to any questions.
Are you a United Way participant?
No. We're not funded from anyone outside of the, well, I shouldn't say that. We receive our funding from donors. We're not a United Way agency.
But we were born out of it.
We were born out of the United Way to serve the capital needs of the United Way agencies. But we're not affiliated with them at all now.
If people make a contribution, do they make it to the community foundation or to a specific endowment within it?
That depends. You have your choice. You can make a contribution to the community foundation that would be unrestricted, and that would help with the grant making that we do. But if you have a specific endowment that you would like the contribution to go to, then it would be allocated to that endowment. You can also make in honor of and in memory gifts.
I saw on one of your previous slides, you have donor advised endowed funds.
Yes.
Do you do unendowed funds?
No. Well, I shouldn't say that. I guess one thing that we do offer is we have pass-through funds. And so a perfect example of a pass-through fund, Mary Cacavo, a local audiologist, she has an endowment for hearing loops. She's very passionate about hearing loops, and so she established an endowment. Well, while her endowment is growing, she wanted to make significant grants into the community. So she is able to contribute funds into a pass-through fund within her endowment, which is not endowed. It's in a low interest bearing account, and then she's able to pass those funds through to provide a larger grant.
Explain a little bit further about your relationship with the White County. So
They're an affiliate, so they're a very small organization, probably 4 to 5 million, and they have a staff of 1. So we serve as their back office, and that helps them to be able to operate.
At one time, didn't we do that for Benton County, but they got
Yes.
large enough and spun
Right, right. So that could change in the future.
Of your funds, how much of it is unrestricted? It's your discretion, you're under your control to distribute.
That's a good
Your
question.
40-some million?
Probably about 70% of it is restricted. And so, you know, most people who, when they're establishing an endowment, they have charitable passions, and so they want to set up their endowment for a specific thing. And so it's those unrestricted funds that allow us to provide grants for capital needs. And so we always have more requests for the unrestricted than we have to distribute. It's a challenge.
One more question? Any more questions?
Do you have a fee schedule? If I were to set up an endowment and I ask that you distribute it in a certain way, what would you charge me on a percentage basis for setting a fund up like that?
That's a good question. All of our endowments have a 1.5% admin fee, and that's based on the 3-year trailing average. So particularly when you're first establishing your endowment, as it ramps up in size, that amount is divided by the 3 years, so it makes it a smaller amount. Does that make sense?
No.
So there's a 1.5% fee, and it's based on the 3-year trailing average. So if you have an endowment, you would look back over the last 3 years, add up the 3 years, and divide it by 3. And that would be your average.
Which comes down to about 1%.
So what it does is when the first year you have your endowment, the distribution would be smaller. And so this way you don't have a larger fee. It's more in proportion with your distribution. Because the distribution is based on a 4.75 of the 3-year trailing average as well.
Do you decide in-house what investments are going to make?
We do not. We use Mason Investments, and they manage the funds. We actually have a very small staff. We have 5 employees total.
do have an investment committee of the board, though.
Yes, we do.
Would you state the name that you used? I didn't pick that up.
Mason Investments out of Reston, Virginia. And they come in 4 times a year and meet with our finance committee. Yes?
I just want to say, my compliments to whoever does your newsletter. I do enjoy like the article on Linnell Geddes and others, so.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we actually have some annual reports and some newsletters in the back of the room. So if anyone is interested in one, you're welcome to take them home.
One more. Oh, okay. He does not have a question now. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.